All right, so I'm walking here in this row of new construction apartment buildings, and you all are probably seeing this pop up in your area. And the thing is that as a nation, we're heading into becoming a nation of renters. New construction for starter homes, for starter housing, is being built to rent. Not built for ordinary citizens like you and me to buy homes, but in order for big corporations to rent them out because people can't afford homes right now. And the people who are able to build affordable homes, they're not putting it on the market to sell it, but they're putting it on the market to rent. And a Redfin report came out stating that 1 in 5 millennials believe that they will never own a home. And this is alarming because for generations upon generations, a lot of people between the ages that millennials are in right now believe that they would own a home. They weren't intimidated by the high prices, by high mortgage rates and things of that nature. But now, during current times where home prices are, where mortgage prices are, and just the lack of inventory, a lot of people my age are just giving up on the dream of owning a home. So as Americans in America, are we losing the American dream, right, of owning a home? Are we going to give up on that very basic right for people to actually own their home? Now, granted, I do not believe that everyone needs to own a home, and you have to take baby steps into owning a home. Maybe you need to rent for a year or two. But now that people have rented, they have a job, they went to college, they got themselves in debt, but now when they look around, they can't even afford a basic home. And all affordable homes are either being bid up or they're just being put on the market to rent for a price that's way much higher than even buying a home. And so a lot of millennials, a lot of people are stuck in this middle ground of, hey, yes, I am basically paying a mortgage payment for my rent, but at the moment I can't save up that amount of money for a down payment, and I can't afford these mortgage rates at the moment. Welcome to my channel, everyone. My name is Matthew, and on this channel, on Biz Matthew, we talk about the housing market, we talk about the economy and personal finance as a whole. So if you all don't mind, please hit that subscribe button as we grow this community together. Now let's go over this recent survey by Redfin. The number one reason millennials and Gen Z said that they believe they will never own a home is because of affordability. Home prices are at all-time highs, and this was predicated a lot on what happened during the pandemic. Once the pandemic hit, interest rates dropped, which really increased demand for housing because people could get loans for a cheaper rate, and that drove up prices. And then in order for inflation to go down and home prices to go down, the Fed actually increased Fed rates, which in turn indirectly affected mortgage rates to increase. But the increase didn't actually come out with the best outcome that the Fed thought it would have. Because what happened when the Fed increased the Fed rate, yes, home prices did dip initially a little bit, but the thing is a lot of home sellers and homeowners decided not to put their property on the market because they knew about these higher mortgage rates. So in turn, that limited supply. And we all know the basics of economics, right? When a supply is low, demand is high, which usually keeps prices higher. And that's exactly what happened. Yes, the Fed did raise interest rates. Indirectly, that raised mortgage rate, but then people stopped listing their properties on the market and things of that nature. And why would they list their property when a lot of people got their property under 4% or even in the 4%? Why would you list your property in order to try to find a house that's, number one, higher price, and you'll probably get a mortgage rate that is much higher than what you currently own? And so what a lot of people did, they just didn't list their property. They say, hey, this is going to be my forever home. And that's what we're seeing right now. We have a limited supply of available housing, especially affordable housing right now on the market because of these higher mortgage rates and people reacting to because of these higher mortgage rates. And so a lot of Gen Zs and millennials, they see this. They don't have as many options as our parents did, right? As other generations did. They don't have the ability to get a house for a cheaper rate, even though back then people probably dealt with higher interest rates. But with that came lower prices. But this time is way much different. And so the second main reason reason a lot of millennials and Gen Zs believe that they will never own a home is because they believe mortgage rates are too high. And so you're dealing with higher home prices, and then on top of that, you're dealing with higher mortgage rates. And so that's a double whammy, right? Because usually when you deal with higher mortgage rates, at least you get a discount on the home. Or if you're dealing with higher home prices, you get a discount on mortgage rates. But this time you're hit with a double whammy with both higher home prices and higher mortgage rates. And so reading some more stats about Gen Zs and millennials, right now, roughly 1/4 of Gen Zs actually own their home, right? Of Gen Z adult people. And then 52% of millennials own their home. So it's still a decent amount, but compare that to previous generations, we have 71% of Gen Xers owning their home and 79% of baby boomers. And so you see that discrepancy is huge. The other interesting stat about this survey is that around 40% of Gen Zers and millennials are working second jobs, right? To save for a down payment, and about 1/4 plan to use a cash gift from family members. And so back in the day, you never had to deal with all these issues. And so you really have to overextend yourself in order to buy a home if that's something that you really want. And unfortunately, if you do want to own a home and you're not in the best financial position, you may have to take a second job, you may have to ask for some money from family member, or you just may have to wait a little bit longer. Now let's discuss the corporations. So this is a new apartment complex that they're building around my area. You're probably seeing some around your area. There's another one just like less than half of a mile away. Same thing, but they're more of townhomes. They're more like smaller homes. You're seeing a lot of these things pop up, and this is supposed to solve the housing issue, right? But the thing is, what they're going to do, they're going to rent all of these apartments for extremely high prices where the average person cannot really afford it. And the other thing I'm seeing is that this space could have been used for smaller homes, right? For some townhouses that people could have invested and bought into. But no, they're using it for places like this. And that's the other thing I wanted to hit on is like affordability, starter homes. Is it true that, hey, things are just way more expensive for the investor, labor costs, material costs, that they can't even really afford to build a starter home, an affordable home, and so they can't really go that route. They have to build it to rent in order to make money, or build it and then sell it for a higher price, even though it's not really worth that higher price. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about all of these new constructions, these build to rent places popping up around your area? Now, just going back to stats in the survey, talking about millennials, just talking about everyone in general. So home prices have increased over 40% since 2019. Wages have increased, but only by 20%. So that doesn't make sense. The price of homes, inflation is increasing twice as much as your salary. So how can one keep up with everything, right? How can one keep up with buying a home, buying groceries, doing all these things that are required? And just with the increase of costs with homes, it's the cycle that we're in. Because if you think about it, let's say you can't afford a home, you can't afford to buy at the moment. Cool. Now home prices are continuing to increase, but you can't afford them. And so even though you're saving this month, that month, every single year, your wage is not keeping up with how much you actually need to save because home prices are increasing. And then another thing is that you miss out on equity, right? So if you can't initially just get into a starter home and actually ride the wave of actually owning a home and it building equity, right, with your first starter home, you miss out on actually using equity from your home to buy another home. Because a lot of these Gen Xers and these baby boomers, a lot of them, it's not like necessarily they have more money, it's just that they have a house and they always own the home. And a lot of people, what they do, they're young, baby boomers, they were young, they bought their cheap house, their home value doubled by the next time they needed to buy another home. And so when you really truly, what benefits baby boomers is that they have so much money, they always owned a home, and they're roll over their equity from to the next home. And so when you think about it, these baby boomers, they bought their house in their 20s for cheap prices, and then by the time they were going to buy their next house, their house doubled in value. And so they didn't really have to bring so much cash up front for a down payment. A lot of times they didn't even have to bring up cash for their down payment because the equity covered all of their down payment, and they kept on doing that and kept on doing that and kept on doing that. And so what makes it hard when people can't even start to buy a home is that stops them forever ever from buying a home, right? Because they're not able to start at a base with just a cheaper house, a $200,000, $250,000 house, where maybe 5-10 years down the road, the house has grown in equity and they're able to roll over that equity to their next home. And so that's why it's so imperative to actually start from the very beginning to own a home. But more and more people can't even start because a lot of starter homes are not being built. These affordable housing is not being built. And a lot of these affordable housing, they're being used to build complexes like this or build to rent and things of that nature. All right, you all, hope you all enjoyed this video. Comment down below your thoughts on the current housing market situation. What do you plan to do? Do you own a home? How are you navigating buying a home or your next home? What things are you doing differently? And once again, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Talk to you all later.